Welcome to Bass Habits episode number 71. Today we're going to talk about Skid Row and their bass player, Rachel Bolan. Skid Row are an American rock band formed in New Jersey in 1986 and were one of the very last metal outfits to hit the mainstream before grunge took over in the early 90s. After spending a couple of years playing local clubs, the band landed a deal with Atlantic Records and entered the studio to record their first album, Skid Row, which was an immediate success. Before releasing it though, the band paid a reported $35,000 to guitarist Gary Moore for the rights to the name of his namesake band, which had been active until the early 70s and which also featured 18-year-old Phil Lynott on lead vocals. The core of Skid Row is composed by guitar player Dave Sabo and bassist Rachel Bolan, which are not only the founding members but also the main force behind the band's muscular songwriting. Primarily influenced by the melodic style of Gene Simmons and Paul McCartney first, and by the gritty sound of punk music later, Bolan alternates really melodic lines to straight-in-your-face punk bass, filling the gaps between the two styles and keeping together Skid Row's complex songwriting. So what do you have to do to play like Rachel Bolan? Let's have a look. Number one thing to discuss is the tone. Skid Row came along at the end of the 80s, a period that would mark the beginning of the decline of the hair metal genre. Compared to the other bands of the movement like Motley Crue or Cinderella, the first thing that jumps to eye when listening to Skid Row is the fact that their sound is considerably heavier. The bass guitar especially is very aggressive and rightfully placed at the forefront of the mix. Looking at the live videos of the era though, Bolan doesn't seem to hit the strings particularly hard. And even seems to prefer to use an alternate picking, which is not what I would call a straight punk rock approach. So how come he stands out so much on the records? Bolan has been mainly associated with Spector and Hammer basses, but he later stated in an interview that the bulk of Skid Row records have been put together using a 70s precision bass. Not sure what amp he used, but to me it sounds like Ampeg. Skid Row opted for a heavily distorted guitar sound with a lot of low frequencies, especially on their sophomore record, Slave to the Grind. Probably to cut himself a space in the mix, Bolan's bass seems to have a clear boost on the high mid-range to make it stand out. The result is magnificent and it gives Skid Row a complete different sound compared to the other bands of the era. Number 2. The rhythm figures. Besides the tone, Bolan's real strength lays in his songwriting abilities. Right from the very beginning we get served with simple yet effective bass lines that really define the rhythmic quality of the songs. One thing that struck me immediately when listening to Skid Row is how their most rocking guitar riffs are pretty much made of simple chords. There's not many arpeggios or single string parts, so bass and drums have a lot of options to bring variety. Every change on the rhythm figure really stands out. Bolan and drummer Rob Affuso come up with some really cool rhythms, taking a step away from the classic 4-on-the-floor 80s rock style. On Youth Gone Wild, the verse has a very upbeat syncopated bass line, while the guitars play long open chords. On the chorus, guitars and bass switch role. Bolan's Kiss-inspired staccato quarter notes are the element that make the song really take off, in stark contrast with the core dance guitar riff. The threat has a similar pattern, with the bass hitting on quarter notes on the verse and doubling the guitars on the rest of the song. On Frozen, the bass and drums push the verse with their syncopated pattern while the guitars stay pretty much out of the way. Number 3. Play staccato on the last bar of the chorus. Speaking of rhythms, another little trick Bolan likes to use every now and then are little staccato runs, always happening on the last bar of the chorus. Beautiful. Number 4. The melodic chops. As we said before, Skid Row are considerably heavier compared to the other bands of the 80s rock scene, to the point that they are often considered a metal band. Ironically though, most of their singles and most iconic songs are ballads. It's on these ballads that the melodic feeling of Rachel Bolan really hits a spot. On 18 and Live, the bass brings life to the intersection of the song, decorating the guitar arpeggio with what practically is a little bass solo, relying heavily on a second and second below intervals. On Wasted Time, beside the intro, the bass adds a lot of movement and melody on the second verse with simple but effective little runs that really make the song groove. On I Remember You, check out this little super cool arpeggio that utilizes the open D string right before the solo. There's another cool nuance worth mentioning. On the chorus, the bass moves from the root, connecting the chords with the C note, while the guitars stay on D major, a little detail that makes it sound epic. The same happens on Quicksand Jesus. It's just a single note, but the effect is massive. On the verse of Breaking Down, the bass with his ostinato on the minor third really sets an unusual atmosphere, contributing to the harmony of one of the best songs ever. On ballads, there's normally a lot of space left by the guitar, so when you move away from the root, you can create some really cool effects with a minimum effort. Try it out in your own songs. Number 5. Pentatonic scale with the blue note. Next is good old minor pentatonic scale with the added blue note. Brought to popularity by heavy metal bass godfather Geezer Butler, the minor pentatonic scale with the added flat fifth, or blue note, is the cornerstone of many of Skid Row bass-driven songs, like Piece of Me. Comes and goes, quick as does the day. Number 6. Powerchord arpeggios. Often happening on the higher part of the neck, powerchord arpeggios are another Bolan's favorite, normally used to highlight an upcoming change of atmosphere in the song. Number 7. Triplets. Another very interesting thing I've noticed is Bolan's use of triplets. If you pay close attention to the bass part of In a Darkened Room, yeah, another ballad, you'll notice that while everybody else is playing quarter notes, the bass plays a little triplet note on the 4, giving the song a unique slow rolling movement. The same happens on Into Another, where the single triplet note played by the bass really pushes the beautiful 7/8 time signature verse. With a band that heavy, it's not easy to be melodic without sounding out of place, but Bolan really manages to do so, working around the vocal melodies, always in perfect sync with drummer Rob Affuso. Other licks worth checking out are on the intro of Rattlesnake Shake, the beautiful pre-chorus of Firesign, and the verse of Bonehead, where the slide landing first on E and then on B creates a really cool effect. Rachel Bolan combines cool melodies and simple but smart note choices with an extremely aggressive punk style, and he does what every bass player on earth should do: make everyone else in the band sound better. This video is focused on what is normally considered the most significant part of Skid Row's career, from their debut album in 1989 to the release of Subhuman Race in 1995. After that, the band famously broke up, and though it would later reunite and continue to release albums with a number of different singers and different drummers, I think it's safe to say that their first 3 records remain their best and most recognizable work. And though Subhuman Race elicited critical acclaim, the band itself considered it their all-time lowest, to the point that Bolan himself would state that the record absolutely sucks. I consider it a fantastic album, and though it might be an unpopular opinion, I will go as far as saying that to me Subhuman Race is the best album Skid Row ever made, and it's definitely in my all-time top 10. The songwriting is outstanding, and Bob Rock's production is just the perfect meeting point between the melodies of the 80s and the dark, scruffy atmospheres that will dominate the following decade. The drums and bass sound fantastic, and Buck's voice is as good as it gets. Do yourself a favor and go check it out. That's it for today. Don't forget to like, subscribe and follow me on Instagram. If you want to really support this channel, please leave a comment, a super thank, or buy one of our t-shirts. All the links are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching.